The desperate call of the story opens with Captain Jake Miller standing on the bridge of Earth's defense station, watching the vast emptiness of space. Suddenly, their long-range sensors pick up something impossible: a massive alien fleet approaching the solar system. But these ships are not attacking. They are limping, damaged, and broadcasting desperate messages across all frequencies. The alien fleet belongs to the Keth Empire, a proud warrior race that has ruled half the galaxy for centuries. Their leader, Commander Vex, sends a transmission to Earth. His voice is filled with shame and desperation as he explains their situation. A terrible plague has swept through their worlds, turning their own people into mindless creatures that devour everything in their path. The infection spreads faster than fire, and world after world falls silent. The Keth have tried everything: their best scientists, their most advanced weapons, their ancient magic. Nothing works. The plague adapts to every cure, overcomes every defense. Now, with their empire crumbling and their people dying, they have come to the one place they never thought they would turn to for help: Earth. Commander Vex explains that the Keth have always seen humans as weak, primitive creatures, barely worthy of notice. They laughed at human technology, mocked human compassion, and dismissed human wisdom as foolishness. But now, faced with extinction, they have nowhere else to turn. They beg Earth for help, offering their most precious technologies, their treasure, even their loyalty in exchange for salvation. The human leadership gathers in emergency session. President Wells, a calm woman in her 50s, listens to the reports. Admiral Ross wants to help immediately, seeing a chance to gain powerful allies. Dr. Stone, Earth's top scientist, is excited by the possibility of studying alien technology. But General Hayes warns that this could be a trap, that the Keth might be lying to get close to Earth. As the debate rages, more reports come in. The plague is spreading faster than expected. Entire Keth worlds are going dark. A desperation in their messages grows stronger. Some Keth ships begin breaking formation, their crews panicking as they receive news that their home worlds have fallen. The chapter ends with President Wells making a decision that surprises everyone. Instead of immediately offering help or turning the aliens away, she orders complete radio silence. No response to the Keth messages. No acknowledgement of their presence. The alien fleet waits in space, their calls for help echoing into empty void, while Earth remains mysteriously quiet. 3 days pass in tense silence. The Keth fleet remains at the edge of the solar system, their ships growing more desperate by the hour. Commander Vex sends increasingly frantic messages, but Earth gives no response. The alien leader cannot understand this behavior. In Keth culture, one either helps or refuses. Silence is incomprehensible. Dr. Lisa Park, a young xenobiologist, works day and night in her lab, studying the data the Keth have broadcast about their plague. She discovers something disturbing. The infection shows signs of artificial creation. This is not a natural disease, but a biological weapon that has somehow turned against its creators. She brings this information to the human leadership. Meanwhile, the Keth fleet begins to fracture. Some ships want to attack Earth and take what they need by force. Others argue for patience. A few vessels break away entirely, fleeing to distant parts of the galaxy. Commander Vex struggles to maintain order as his people face their greatest crisis. On Earth, the silence is not empty inaction. President Wells has activated humanity's greatest strength, not their weapons or technology, but their ability to think, plan, and understand. Teams of experts work around the clock, not just studying the plague, but studying the Keth themselves. Anthropologists analyze their culture, psychologists examine their behavior patterns, and historians review every interaction between humans and aliens. The breakthrough comes from an unexpected source. Tom Chun, a simple farmer from Nebraska, sends a message to the government. He has been watching the news and notices something others missed. The plague symptoms remind him of a blight that hit his crops 5 years ago. He tried everything to stop it: chemicals, cutting away infected plants, even burning whole fields. Nothing worked until he did something counterintuitive. He stopped fighting it entirely. Dr. Park realizes the farmer might be onto something. The plague adapts to every attack, growing stronger with each attempt to destroy it. But what if they stopped trying to fight it? What if the solution was not to cure the plague, but to let it run its course while protecting what mattered most? The human research teams work frantically, developing not a cure for the plague, but a way to starve it. They discover that the biological weapon needs certain conditions to thrive, conditions that the Kef had been accidentally providing by fighting it so hard. The more they resist, the stronger it becomes. As the chapter ends, more Keth ships receive news of fallen worlds. Their desperation reaches a breaking point. Some vessels begin approaching Earth's defensive perimeter, their commanders ready to risk everything for a chance at salvation. The human fleet prepares for possible conflict, but President Wells maintains her order: complete silence. The Keth fleet splits into 3 factions. The largest group, led by Commander Vex, maintains position and continues sending messages to Earth. The second group, led by the aggressive Sub-Commander Tor, begins moving toward Earth's defensive line, demanding answers. The third group, smallest but led by the wise Elder Cole, retreats to the outer system to wait and observe. On Earth, the research teams make a crucial discovery. The plague is not just adapting to their medicine, it is learning from their very attempts to fight it. Each failed cure teaches it new ways to spread and survive. Dr. Park compares it to trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The Keth's advanced technology and fierce warrior culture have become the plague's greatest advantages. Captain Miller receives orders to allow one small Keth ship to approach Earth, not to help them, but to study them up close. The ship that combs forward is barely functional, its crew of 12 dying from the plague. The humans maintain their distance, using remote sensors and drones to examine the aliens without making contact. What they discover changes everything. The plague is not just a biological weapon, it is a punishment, hidden in the Keth's own historical records, which they transmitted in their desperate attempts to share information. Human researchers find the truth. The Keth created this plague centuries ago to use against their enemies. They designed it to be unstoppable, to adapt to any defense, to spread until it consumed everything. But the weapon had a built-in safeguard that the Keth forgot over time. It was designed to eventually burn itself out, but only under specific conditions. The plague needed its hosts to stop fighting it, to accept their fate, to let it run its course. Only then would it consume itself and die. The Keth's warrior nature made this impossible. They could not stop fighting, could not accept defeat, could not let the plague take its course. Their very strength had become their weakness. Every battle, every cure attempt, every act of resistance fed the plague and made it stronger. Elder Cole, observing from the outer system, begins to understand what the humans are doing. Unlike the other Keth, he has studied human behavior and recognizes their pattern. Humans do not always fight with weapons. Sometimes they fight with patience, with wisdom, with understanding. The silence is not rejection, it is analysis. Meanwhile, Sub-Commander Tor grows impatient. His ships cross into Earth's defensive zone, demanding immediate assistance. The human fleet responds with a show of force, but no violence. They simply form a wall, preventing the Keth from advancing while offering no aggression. This confuses Tor, who expects either help or battle. Dr. Park makes the final breakthrough. She discovers that the plague has a weakness the Keth never found because they never stopped fighting long enough to let it reveal itself. The biological weapon needs constant conflict to maintain its evolution. In the absence of resistance, it begins to consume its own adaptive mechanisms. The chapter ends with President Wells finally breaking the silence. She sends a single message to the Keth fleet. We have your answer, but you will not like it. The cure requires you to do something your people have never done. Surrender completely to the plague and trust in wisdom over strength. Commander Vex's response to the human message is immediate and angry. Surrender to the plague? Let it consume them without resistance? This goes against everything the Keth stand for. Their entire culture is built on strength, on fighting, on never giving up. To surrender feels like choosing death over honor. The human response comes from Dr. Park herself, speaking directly to the Keth fleet. She explains the science behind their discovery, but more importantly, she explains the wisdom behind it. Sometimes, she says, the bravest thing a warrior can do is lay down their weapon when fighting only makes things worse. She shares the story of Farmer Tom Chun, how he saved his crops by stopping his fight against the blight. She tells them about human history, about times when humanity survived by adapting, by changing, by choosing wisdom over pride. The Keth listen, but many reject these ideas as cowardice. Sub-Commander Tor's faction refuses to believe the humans. They break away from the main fleet and attack one of Earth's outer monitoring stations. The human response is swift but controlled. They disable the attacking ships without destroying them, then retreat. This show of restraint confuses Tor, who expected either victory or defeat, not mercy. Elder Cole, however, begins to understand. He broadcasts a message to all Keth ships, sharing an ancient story from their own history. Long ago, before the Keth became warriors, they were scholars and farmers. They survived a great famine not by fighting the land, but by learning to work with it. Over centuries, they forgot this lesson, believing that strength alone could solve. Any problem. The debate among the Keth grows heated. Some ships begin to return to their territory, choosing to die fighting rather than surrender. Others remain, torn between their nature and their desperation. Commander Vex finds himself caught. In the middle, his authority challenged by those who see surrender as betrayal. On Earth, the human leadership faces their own crisis. Admiral Ross argues that they should help the Keth directly, using human technology to fight the plague. Dr. Stone wants to study the aliens more closely, to learn from their advanced science. But President Wells holds firm to their strategy of guidance rather than direct intervention. The turning point comes when one of the Keth ships, commanded by Captain Rex, decides to test the human theory. His ship is dying, his crew nearly gone. He has nothing left to lose. Against all protocol, he orders his people to stop fighting the plague, to stop taking medicine, to stop resisting. The results are terrifying at first. The plague spreads faster, through his ship, consuming everything in its path. His crew begins to die rapidly. Other Keth ships watch in horror, convinced that Rex has condemned his people to meaningless death. But the humans monitor carefully, their sensors tracking every change. After 3 days of horror, something unexpected happens. The plague begins to slow down. Its adaptive mechanisms start to fail. Without resistance to fight against, it begins to attack itself. The biological weapon, designed to overcome any defense, finds itself with nothing to overcome and starts to consume its own evolutionary advantages. Captain Rex's ship goes silent for 12 hours. The other Keth assume everyone is dead. But then, weakly, a transmission comes through. Rex is alive, and so are half his crew. The plague has burned itself out, leaving behind only normal, treatable infections. The unstoppable biological weapon has destroyed itself. The chapter ends with the Keth fleet in chaos. Some ships immediately begin following Rex's example, while others flee in terror. Commander Vex faces the hardest decision of his life, whether to trust in human wisdom or maintain Keth traditions. Even if it means extinction. Asterisk, the news of Captain Rex's success spreads through the Keth fleet like wildfire. His ship, once dying, now shows signs of recovery. The impossible has happened. The plague that consumed worlds has been defeated not by strength, but by surrender. The reaction among the Keth is immediate and violent. Half the fleet, led by Elder Cole, decides to follow Rex's example. They begin the terrifying process of allowing the plague to run its course, trusting in human wisdom and their own ancient knowledge. The other half, led by Sub-Commander Tor, rejects this approach entirely. They brand the first group as traitors and prepare to return to Keth space to die as warriors. Commander Vex finds himself forced to choose between the two factions. In a moment that defines his character, he makes a decision that surprises everyone. He splits his remaining ships, sending half with each group. "Let both paths be tried," he broadcasts. "Let history judge which choice was wise." The ships that choose surrender face 3 days of horror. The plague spreads unchecked through there. Vessels killing many. The humans monitor from a distance, offering no direct help but providing constant guidance. Dr. Park broadcasts daily updates, explaining what is happening and why patience is crucial. On Earth, the human population watches the drama unfold. Many people struggle with the decision to let the aliens suffer without direct intervention. Protests break out in major cities, with people demanding that humanity use its resources to help immediately. But President Wells addresses the nation, explaining that sometimes the greatest help comes from teaching others to help themselves. The crisis deepens when several Keth ships that chose surrender begin to go silent. Sub-Commander Tor uses these apparent failures to broadcast messages condemning the humans as cruel manipulators who trick others into choosing death. He leads his remaining ships in an attack on the vessels that chose surrender, claiming he is putting them out of their misery. The human response is swift and decisive. Earth's defense fleet moves to protect the surrendering Keth ships, not through violence, but through positioning. They form a barrier between the two factions, preventing further attacks while maintaining their policy of non-interference in the plague itself. The breakthrough comes on the 4th day. Ship after ship that had gone silent begins to broadcast. Again, the plague has burned itself out across the fleet, leaving behind crews that are weak but alive. The biological weapon, denied the resistance it needs to evolve, has consumed itself and died. Elder Cole's voice carries across space as he thanks the humans for their wisdom. But his message is not one of gratitude alone. It is one of understanding. The Keth have learned something more valuable than a cure for their plague. They have learned that strength without wisdom is meaningless, that sometimes the greatest courage comes from admitting you are wrong. Sub-Commander Tor's faction faces a choice. They can continue to reject the human solution and return to their dying worlds, or they can swallow their pride and follow the path that has saved their people. One by one, Tor's ships begin to break away, their crews choosing life over pride. The story concludes with a meeting between President Wells and Commander Vex, not in person, but through secure transmission. Vex apologizes for his people's arrogance, for dismissing humans as weak and primitive. Wells responds with characteristic wisdom, explaining that strength and weakness are not always what they seem. The Keth fleet begins its journey home, carrying with them not just survivors, but a new understanding. They have learned that the humans they once mocked possess something more valuable than advanced weapons or technology. They possess the wisdom to know when not to fight. As the alien ships disappear into space, Earth returns to its quiet vigilance. The humans have gained something too, the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from answering a call for help with action, but with patience, wisdom, and the courage to let others find their own strength. The stars, which had begged for help, received something better than rescue. They received the wisdom to save themselves. And in the silence that followed, both species understood that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when to set that power aside. Asterisk,